What is up? And welcome in. It is July 13th, 2022. Going live a little bit earlier than we said we would, a little bit later than we normally do, to break down Minnesota United's 1-1 draw with Sporting Kansas City. My name is Jeremy Rushing, here to do that with you. The reason why we had the adjusted timeline tonight is because we actually had two post-game shows. If you missed it, had a really good conversation with Mark Pravatsky, Danny Foxhoven, and Matthew Johnson on Minnesota Aurora's 2-1 USLW League playoff win over Indy 11. So if you want to check out that conversation, that's available right now on our Twitter page in the previous spaces section, or you can check that out on the Sota Soccer podcast feed tomorrow morning if you want to listen to that conversation. But yes, big shout out before we get going on the Loons talk. Big shout out to Minnesota Aurora and that 2-1 win. They advance to the USLW League semifinals, which take place on Sunday at TCO Stadium. But now it's time to discuss Minnesota United and the 1-1 draw with Sporting Kansas City at Allianz Field. Now, coming into this match, SKC was not on a great run. That had been well documented. But the stats really show just how bad things had been for Sporting Kansas City coming into this. You're looking at a team tied for last in the league with just 18 goals, tied for fifth worst in the league in goals allowed. No goals in 15 appearances so far this season from Kyrie Shelton. A league worst 11 losses, a league worst minus 16 goal differential. That's the team you were playing tonight. That's the team Minnesota United was taking on. So when you look at that team just on paper, you got to think, oh, coming off 3 straight wins, it should be 4 straight wins at the end of the night playing this team at home who has just been absolutely struggling. But you sort of remove the hood off of the face and you see it Sporting Kansas City, and suddenly you're like, oh, okay, maybe this will be a little bit tighter than the numbers suggest, because it is absolutely impossible for Minnesota and Sporting Kansas City, outside of the 4-0 outlier last year, to play a one-sided match. Usually all their matches are neck and neck nail biters, as tonight was, right, with the 1-1 draw. So you knew coming in that it was probably going to be a bit of a battle, but considering Kansas City's struggles and the team they have been this season, you think that the 3 points should be the expectation, right? But you don't get that. You get a 1-1 draw, and it's hard to feel like this wasn't 2 points dropped. And that's where I'm actually going to kick off my 3 things. Now, as you're trickling in the stream, before I get to my 3 things, as you are joining us here on YouTube, go ahead and leave a question, a comment in the chat. We'd love that. Give us a thumbs up to let us know you're liking the content, and tap that bell to be notified whenever we drop a new video. Now, I will be completely honest and say I know that a lot of people will be watching this after the fact, that will be listening to the podcast version of this, because there were more than 25,000 people, pretty much all of which are in our audience base here at Sota Soccer, that were out watching soccer in the Twin Cities tonight. Almost 19,000 at Allianz, 6,200 selling out TCO for Minnesota Aurora's playoff match. So I'm well aware that the live viewership and live interaction is not going to be what it normally was. It's not going to be the dozens and dozens that tuned in after the Vancouver match. I get that. But hopefully we can get a few people in here, leave some questions and comments to respond to as we get rolling. So if you are just joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave those questions or comments and give us that thumbs up. Now, if you're watching on Twitter and you want to get involved in the conversation, you do need to go over to YouTube. I know, YouTube. You'd rather just be on Twitter because you're always on Twitter anyways. I understand that. I'm on Twitter far more than I'm on YouTube myself. But if you do want to get involved in the conversation, leave a question or comment. We're not able to see those comments that come in on Twitter. You'll have to leave those over on YouTube. Just search Sota Soccer or search Post Loons, and you should get all hooked up right there. But if you're watching on Twitter and you just want to chill and take in the post-game show, that is fine. I do ask that maybe you hit that like and retweet button and amplify this out to more people as we get rolling here. But with all that said, I'm going to give my 3 things. My first thing from tonight is that this feels like a loss. This really does feel like a loss for Minnesota. And it's disappointing because you were coming off such a good run of play, 3 straight wins. Things seemingly had turned around in the attacking third. You had figured some things out. Best run of form that we've seen in a while from Minnesota United coming into this one. And being that you're at home against a struggling Sporting Kansas City side, you thought you'd be able to get 3 more points out of it, extend that win streak to 4. That did not happen, obviously. You get the loss, or excuse me, you get the draw that feels like a loss. And it's hard not to be disappointed. Now, it is a point. A point is a point. You don't come out of this with a loss, but there definitely is a sour taste in the mouth after this 1-1 draw, considering that not just the fact that SKC is SKC this year, but that win was there for the taking in the match, too. You had numerous chances at the end, including that opportunity right at the death that somehow didn't end up in the back of the net. And you leave feeling pretty disappointed from this one. So my first thing is it feels like a loss. My second thing, though, is going to be on the positive side. Kemar Lawrence showed out again tonight. First thing, obviously, the goal that he created. I said on Twitter, he should probably get credit for this goal because it was his hustle who actually made that sequence happen that led to the own goal. Just full speed, dead sprint, chasing down a ball that looks destined for the end line, destined for a goal kick. And Lawrence chases it down, and just before it crosses that end line, he's able to center that pass to the middle, takes a couple deflections, ends up in the back of the net. And that was really that was earned from him because he had an all in all great performance tonight. He was excellent in the defensive third as well. On a night where Minnesota United's defense was not all that great, Kemar Lawrence really shined tonight once again. With the all-star selections being made, you could argue that Lawrence deserved that shot. I think if he had 15 plus starts for Minnesota United before the voting takes place, I think he's a shoo-in for the all-star game. But he came over to Minnesota kind of late. You're switching conferences. He hadn't really been much of a factor for the Red Bulls prior to coming over. So for Toronto prior to coming over. But he's been excellent for Minnesota, and that form showed again tonight. He's really solidified that left back position in the post Chase Gasper era that we're in now. So that is super encouraging moving forward. But it does come in a loss. So there is that grain of salt to be taken there. My third and final thing is, and this is going to be just kind of an overall thing, but I just think this is an incredible night for soccer in the Twin Cities. Yes, the 1-1 draw for Minnesota United specifically isn't great, but between TCO Stadium and Allianz Field, like I mentioned, you had more than 25,000 people taking in live soccer tonight in the Twin Cities. I just think that's incredible. And that right there is why we do what we do at sotasoccer.com. Putting all that work in to make sure that we're covering all levels and aspects of soccer in Minnesota because so many people care about it, right? Not too many markets you'll see that many people going out on a Wednesday night to take in a live soccer match. But we had 2 of them for a total of more than 25,000 people in attendance. Just awesome. So yes, the 1-1 draw leaves a sour taste in the mouth, but I think all in all, a really, really positive and cool night for soccer in the Twin Cities. And speaking of cool, the weather was excellent as well. I think that helped a lot. But those are my 3 things. If you have any takes or takeaways, feel free to drop those in the chat. And while you're doing that, before I get to kind of the match moments and the big instances that led to the 1-1 draw, we're going to shout out some of our friends and our sponsors. First off, 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. 801 South 9th Street, Minneapolis is where you can find them. 9thstreetmpls.com is the website. Twitter and Instagram at 9th Street MPLS is where you can find them on the socials. This is a really cool combination of things, soccer and coffee. You can go play some pickup soccer if that's your thing. They have affordable weekly pickup pretty much every night of the week. So go check that out on their website. But if you're just a fan of soccer, maybe not interested in playing pickup or playing at all, but you're just a fan of soccer and you want to be inside of a kind of a soccer environment, 9th Street is an excellent place for that as well. If there is soccer on television, it will be on the television at 9th Street, day or night, doesn't matter. They also host watch parties too. If there's a road match that's on at a decent time, there's a strong likelihood that 9th Street Soccer and Coffee is hosting a Minnesota United watch party. They've hosted watch parties for Minneapolis City as well. They're very heavily, invested in what Minnesota Aurora is doing. They've had some pop-ups over at TCO Stadium with some chai tea cold brew, for those really, really hot days at TCO. Like, they are really ingrained in the Minnesota soccer community. So if you love the Minnesota soccer community, you're in that Minnesota soccer community. I ask you, if you haven't checked out Ninth Street Soccer and Coffee, go do that. Conveniently located in the Twin Cities as well. They're sort of in Northeast Minneapolis. So if you live on the west side, the east side, doesn't matter. If you're in or around the metro, you can easily access Ninth Street Soccer and Coffee. So hit them up, 801 South 9th Street, Minneapolis, online, 9thstreetmpls.com. Big thank you. Cannot thank these guys enough over at 9th Street Soccer and Coffee. They've been huge supporters of us and what we're doing at Sota Soccer and the Post Loons podcast. Got a comment here from Matt Garrett. What are your thoughts on Bongi in the first half? I don't know what this guy has to do to get a goal, to be honest. It seems like he's continuously knocking on the door. You're going to get the good and the bad with Bongi no matter what. I mean, he's a very direct, vertical type player, which is good, but it's also not necessarily the flashiest soccer at times. He's very, very good in open space. He's very, very good on counterattacks. But working in tight spaces, he's shown some glimpses, but he still has some work to improve there. So, to be honest, Matt, I was watching Aurora and the Loons both at the same time. So I don't have a firm answer for you. I'll have to rewatch the match kind of exclusively without any other distractions to really get a great look and vantage point at what Bongi was bringing in that first half. But from what I saw, it was kind of more of the same. You take what you get with Bongi. The good is that he is very aggressive in his runs. He makes himself available on counterattacks. The bad is, he's not really going to dribble around too many guys, at least at this juncture. When you're a winger, that's a very, very valuable tool to have in your skill set. So hopefully it's something that Bongi can obtain moving forward. If you're like Matt and you want to drop a question or comment in the chat, please do. But I'm going to move on and go to our match moments here, the big sort of instances that made the match. And right off the bat, it was the roadside Sporting Kansas City that got off the bus and were absolutely out on the front foot for basically the entire first half. But the first 15, 20 minutes were just kind of an onslaught in the early going. There was Chalouis getting multiple shot opportunities, one of which forced a diving save from St. Clair. He was sort of that individual who shined early on for Sporting KC, but there was just sort of a relentless attack there that Minnesota couldn't really seem to ease the pressure on in the early going. And that really set the tone for the entire match. I think that first 15 minutes goes in the opposite direction. We're seeing a much different match. We've seen Minnesota United in prior matches, not necessarily against Vancouver, but definitely against LA and RSL. Scoring in that first 10 minutes really sets the tone for this team. They weren't able to do that tonight. And to be honest, they were actually quite on the back foot in the early going, which is not a good tone setter, obviously, for Minnesota. 28th minute, an active first half for St. Clair, keeps going, but he's up to the task once again, this time coming off his line to deny a potential point-blank opportunity. I thought St. Clair was pretty good tonight. He was called upon a lot, specifically in that first half. He was up to the task when he was called upon. That's all you can really ask for from your keeper. 36th minute, Kansas City sends a seemingly harmless cross in, but Debasi whiffs on the clearance attempt. Luckily, Duke on the other end, on the receiving end, isn't able to take advantage of that opportunity. But in the 43rd, this is where we get the opener. Lawrence is able to chase down a ball headed for the end line and send it into the box. Just an excellent hustle play from Kamar Lawrence here. I'm going to echo what I said in my three things. He was a shining star for Minnesota United tonight. It's a disappointing 1-1 draw. I can't really pick out too many guys that had very, super underwhelming individual performances. Nobody really had any great individual performances except for Kamar Lawrence. Nobody really stood out to me except for Kamar Lawrence. And here he just, on a full dead sprint, chases down a ball, looks like it's going to head over the end line for a goal kick, but at the very, very last second, he's able to get his foot on it, send it into the box, sort of center it. It deflects off of Fungus, and goalkeeper John Pulskamp too. I originally said on Twitter that it was Tim Mealy. I didn't realize he was hurt, and it was Pulskamp in net for SKC. but it sort of takes that double deflection and ends up in the back of the net. So that is a big momentum shift for Minnesota United heading into halftime. That's very much against the run of play. Kansas City was really the better side significantly for the first half, but you get that own goal and you're feeling pretty good heading into half. That in spite all of all of what Casey threw at you, it's actually Minnesota United who's ahead at the break. 52nd minute, almost another own goal for Kansas City as Fragapane gets deep in the box, tries a centering pass, it's deflected, almost ends up in the back of the net. 53rd, just 1 minute later, Lawrence's cross finds the head of Amarilla. If Amarilla meets this sort of in the center of goal, I think this goes into either corner. He gets a good head to this, but by the time he reaches it, he's sort of even with the near post, and he's just not able to sort of flick it behind him. He sort of flicks it level, and it goes wide. But I thought Amarilla actually had a decent performance tonight as well. He was caught offside a couple times, but I'd rather him get caught offside trying to make runs than stand in the middle of the box and do a lot of nothing, which is what we have seen traditionally from him this season. But his confidence grows, and I was actually really impressed with what I saw from Amarilla tonight too. But in the 64th, this is where we get the equalizer, and it's Johnny Russell for Kansas City. Great individual effort to evade a challenge in the box. I can't remember if it was Lawrence or DeBasi who tried to make that challenge on Russell. He sort of takes it a little bit, but is able to keep the ball, and he's there point blank after he evades that challenge. Nice left footer beats St. Clair for the equalizer. Not really much that Dane can do there with that one, facing a point blank opportunity. 65th, Loons think they have the lead just 1 minute after the equalizer, and it's Amarilla who does put the ball in the back of the net, but the flag is up for offside as Fragapane was just a half step ahead of the SKC center backs before receiving his pass, and he's the one who fed Amarilla. 76 through ball for Reynoso, but he's offside. He does send the shot in on goal anyway and receives a yellow card for his efforts, called for time wasting. He claims he didn't hear the whistle, but you're going to be carded for that 10 out of 10 times. 81st, Robin Lod in behind on a nice pass from Amarilla, but Pulskamp comes off his line to stop Lod's effort. Turns out he was offside anyways. And then 83rd, a pair of great opportunities for the Loons, but Pulskamp is up to the task with multiple great saves, the second of which comes off a nearly flawless near-post deflection from Lod off a corner. And then you get some stoppage time, and at the very, very death of stoppage time, the ball is sort of pinballing around in front of the box, if you will. There's opportunities for DeBasi, Fragapane, at all, basically, to get a foot on this and put it in the back of the net. But somehow, some way, that does not happen. And that is the very last play of the match. And you come out with that 1-1 draw. And again, as I mentioned, it's just a sour taste. You had the opportunities to win it. You're facing a vulnerable team in Sporting Kansas City. I thought that, the Loons played well in spurts tonight, but it's another match where we didn't see a full 90 from the Loons. We didn't really see even a 45 from the Loons. I thought at the moment Kansas City got their goal in the second half, that was against the run of play. I really liked the way that Minnesota closed the first half and started the second half. And then they kind of do what they always do when they're chasing a goal. They sort of have this flurry in the last 5 minutes plus stoppage time where they get a few opportunities, but it's too little too late, right? That seems to always happen when Minnesota United's down a goal is they generate some good opportunities but aren't able to make it happen. So that's going to be a challenge for the Loons if they are going to be that playoff team. Now, again, they're sitting 8th right now. I believe they're 9th on points per game. So you're not out of the woods. You're actually very much in the woods heading into tonight. So this draw doesn't really do much to change that. But if you are going to be that perennial playoff contender, that team that's in the picture at the end of the season, you're going to have to find ways to put a full 90 minutes together consistently. It doesn't have to be every single time out, but you need to put a full 90 in more than you don't, if that makes any sense. And even with the wins, it's been sort of a tale of two halves in most cases. Against Vancouver, I say the only positive. The positive coming off the Vancouver match is actually you were the second half team in that match, not the first, right? It's usually been the first half where the Loons get out on the front foot, and then they sort of they just ruin it in the second, right? That hasn't been the case lately. Wasn't the case against Vancouver. Wasn't even really the case tonight. But the reason why it wasn't the case tonight is because you really only played well in certain spurts. It wasn't half and half. It wasn't even very consistent. It was just really in spurts. And you were outplayed by a team who is sitting near bottom of the Western Conference right now. So it's definitely a missed opportunity. For me, it's 2 points dropped. And now you're sort of back to the drawing board. But you don't have much time to sort of dwell on this because you are back at it against another vulnerable squad, DC United, on Saturday. Them and new manager Wayne Rooney come to Allianz Field. So not much time to turn it around, but it's another winnable match. But with that comes the expectation that you're going to win. If they don't get 3 points against DC, sort of that confidence starts to falter once again. And that it seems like we're on that roller coaster once again, right? I think 3 points is the expectation. 3 points should be what you need against DC United to get that confidence back up and prove that you deserve to be in that playoff picture. We'll get to some final thoughts in just a second. It's a quick one tonight, guys. 2 post-game shows. My voice is actually almost shot already. So before my voice completely goes out, let's go ahead and shout out our friends over at Pence Homes. If you're buying or selling a home, or maybe you're doing both in Minneapolis or St. Paul, you need to contact Nate and his team over at Pence Homes. Not only are they a great group of realtors who can get you top dollar for your home and make sure that you're getting in your new home at an affordable price, considering this crazy market, but they also are huge supporters of the Minnesota soccer community as well. Pence Homes heavily involved in what's happening with Minnesota Aurora, with Minneapolis City, with Equal Time Soccer, our friends over there who do a great job at covering the women's game across the state of Minnesota, and what we're doing at sotasoccer.com and here on the post-game show with Post Loons. So if you are looking to buy or sell a home in Minneapolis and you want to support somebody who's supporting the soccer community, but also make sure you're getting the best realty experience possible, you're going to hit up our friends over at Pence Homes. How you do that is go to their website, which you can see right there. You can see my finger there, pencehomes.com. Or if you want to skip that and you just want to get right to the conversation, you can email Nate directly. Nate, you can see his name, N-A-T-E. And it's just Nate at pencehomes.com. Huge thanks to our friends over at Pence Homes for supporting what we're doing here with sotasoccer.com and Post Loons. Final thoughts, big picture thoughts on the match tonight. I don't think it's the end of the world. Yes, it's 2 points dropped. Yes, it's disappointing. Yes, it's a match that you were outplayed against a team that has not outplayed many teams this season. But it's still a result. You're still 10 points in the last 4 matches. That's a positive. There are positives that you can take from this stretch, even considering this draw. But you have to follow that up, as I just mentioned. DC United has been a dumpster fire. Wayne Rooney is coming in as their new manager. That's going to give them some prominence. That's going to give them some confidence. But it's still a team that's not good. Objectively not good, DC United. So you need to sort of shake this off, and you need to go in on Saturday with the expectation that you're better than this team. You're at home. You're going to get 3 points. If you get 3 points on Saturday, you're back on the right track. Train's good. All good things. That's 13 points in 5 matches. You're feeling great. But if you come up short, another draw, maybe a loss, then things really start to get sketchy in terms of how this team will be viewed in the playoff picture moving forward. It's crazy to think that we're in mid-July and we're putting so much emphasis on one match, but it's a measuring stick thing, right? You can't have, if you consider yourself to be a perennial playoff contender, you cannot have back-to-back matches against bottom-tier teams where you're at home where you don't get a win. You just can't. You just can't do it. So it's a big one for Minnesota. It's a big one for confidence. So I'm expecting them to get a win and 3 points on Saturday. And we'll be back after that match for better or worse, whether they live up to that or not, with another edition of Post Loons. This is a quick one, guys. Again, it was a double post-game show night for me with the Aurora post-game show, and now this one, not as in-depth as I know you're used to or you want to see from Post Loons. I promise we'll be back and better than ever on Saturday with an exclusive Post Loons post-game show with sort of the normal rundown of stuff. But my voice is about to go. It's getting super gravelly. It's 10:17 on a school night. I'm going to cut it off here. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and checked us out. If you do want some post-game analysis on the Minnesota Aurora playoff win as well, you can check out Post Aurora right now on our Twitter page. It'll also be up on the 10,000 Pitches pod or on the Sota Soccer podcast feed as well. That'll do it for me tonight, guys. We'll be back on Saturday after the match against DC. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week, and we will talk to you in just a few days. See you guys.